WOP Freedom Radio's Alternatives for a Healthier Lifestyle with your host, Reverend Hank McGrath, from our studios in New York's Southern Adirondacks. Today's special guest is Ralf Friedrichs, a powerful strength-based addiction recovery coach, author of Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze, and Struggles Became My Strength, and also the host of Take Your Life Back Today's show, who will share empowering concepts that will help you gain control of your addictions now. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce and bring on Ralf Friedrichs. How you doing today, brother?
I am doing just fine, and how are you?
Okay, it's an honor to have you on. And, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to go right into each book, starting with Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. What led you to that book, and some of the main concepts to that book?
Well, what led me to the book was, for many years, pretty much it started very early in my life, drinking at the age of 3 and 4 years old in Germany. And to fast forward, I just kept drinking, and it became worse and worse and worse. And in 2013, I kind of dropped to my knees and surrendered to God and gave up the booze because I was at the end of my rope. I knew I was dying. I knew I was losing everything around me, including my family. And I, at that point, surrendered to God. To write the book, for years, people have asked me to write a book because of all the different situations I've been in my life, in the Marine Corps, in Alaska. In the Marines, I had a really bad accident happen in 1983 in Beirut, Lebanon. We lost 251 Marines. And in Alaska, I had a really bad accident that caused 3 years of physical therapy and a few surgeries. So when people just kept saying to me, can you write a book, can you write a book? I always said, I don't know how to write a book. I barely even remember, reading yesterday's paper. And I just, with a sober mind at that point, just keeping a sober mind, I kept, like a blog, when I started Take Your Life Back Today show on Facebook, and I kept writing things. And as you know, I do daily quotes, I do daily inspirational things. And then about 2 years, I started writing Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. It took about 2 years to write the book because I hit another snag in life, another tragedy. My mother was killed in Shirley, Long Island, New York, and that put a damper on amongst the family, but it just put the book on the back burner, obviously. And it was actually that I fully kicked it back into gear when I called the person that killed my mother a year to the day she was killed by him, and forgave him. And at that point, I felt a relief in my heart to continue writing this book, Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. And from that point, within a year, I had it self-published, and it's doing very well. It's actually surpassed what it expected to sell the first year, and it's only been out for 5 months. And then my second book was just released on Saturday. And just to bring up to your audience, I have one book coming out next year, and that will be my final book, and it's a children's book, and it's going to be called Say Yes to Hugs and No to Drugs.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, there's some of the concepts in Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. What are some of the empowering concepts that you share in that?
Well, from the beginning of the book, it pretty much shares about some of the tragedies that I've been through, but more importantly, it shares how I came up on conquering or living with in recovery. In other words, I went to AA a couple meetings, and everything was nice in AA, but the thing was, an hour and a half every day wasn't good enough for me. I needed, because I was, at one point, I was up to 15 shots of vodka a day, and I was a functioning alcoholic. I could do my job as an optician, which I still do as an optician, and so I came up with this idea to come up with a show, and the reason for that is because when you start building an audience, as you probably know, the one time that you don't feel that you're fulfilling your audience's needs, you're letting them down, which lets you down. And what I did then, at that point is studied so much. I mean, I absorbed things like a sponge when I studied from the Mayo Clinic. I was featured twice in a Sober Nation magazine. And every single day when I do my videos and I do my inspirational things, I just feel if I just catch 1 out of 1,000,000 people to be able to stay sober for 24 hours, that is a major accomplishment. And that was the basic concept of this book in the beginning. And of course, the book is really an autobiography. It's to show people, to give people hope for a better tomorrow by saying, listen, Ralph went through a major thing in the Marine Corps, a major tragedy. He went through a major issue in Alaska. He had somewhat sort of an unstable upbringing. If he can do all this and survive and do it without alcohol for the last, 6 years, and he's getting stronger in sobriety, anyone can do it. I'm not saying that everyone should do it in my method, because, I always say to my audience, it doesn't matter how your method is. It's how you stay sober. You can call it AA, you can call it Take Your Life Back Today show, you can call it Rehab Center. I mean, my method must work pretty good, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm in 45 different rehab centers in the United States that play my videos. Some of the jails played some of my MAD and DARE program videos. So something must be clicking, and I finally figured out what it is that clicked. And in my book I talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it here. What clicks is that people see the transparency in me saying, if he can say how bad he was, and if he can say he's an alcoholic, there's no reason that I have to hide behind a mask and pretend like I'm not. If you really are, your best bet is just to come out and say it, and then lean on people. Use people to lean on to find out sober tomorrow. So the purpose of the book was an autobiography to let people know it's okay to face all sorts of tragedies in life, all sorts of stumbles in life, and still come out okay. Now, I will tell you this, although I've been sober for a few years now, every day is a challenge. And that leads to the second book, because when I do struggle, what do we all do when we struggle? We look for an alternative. And my alternative in the back of my mind is always going to be booze. But I also know that out of 950,000 people that have seen my videos all over the world, not necessarily just on YouTube, but all my videos on Vimeo and all, I would let them down, because I'd be a hypocrite then. And this is why I don't even take NyQuil. I don't take anything with alcohol-based, because I have an addictive personality to alcohol.
Right. Now, there's 2 things that came up that I wrote notes while you were talking. A lot of folks, the stumbling block, one of the greatest stumbling blocks they may face, is the fact that everything they've gone through has destroyed, in their minds, they believe it's destroyed their self-esteem. And so when you're talking about a powerful, strength-based addiction recovery, part of that is very important to rebuild that self-esteem, correct?
Mm-hmm. It really is. And if you look at, I actually have a chapter in Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. There is a chapter towards the back. It's actually titled Self-Esteem. And a lot of people have given me heat about that chapter, because I talk about my dad. And in the beginning of the book, I say I love my parents. And I do. My mom has passed, obviously, but I do love my parents. But autobiography is a book about honesty and about yourself. And my self-esteem was kind of deflated a lot by, and I say this with respect to my father, but it is what it is, because my dad, he always found fault in me. Now, as far as your first statement, it's when you find that base and you're going through the recovery, a lot of things could have happened that cannot be fixed at that point anymore. Family, job, financial. But the thing here is that you have 86,400 seconds that day, first day of sobriety, to live, that God's allowing you to live, to make a change in your life. Now, you might have lost a lot in life, including your self-esteem. Doesn't mean there's not hope for a better tomorrow. Doesn't mean you can't just roll up your sleeves and dust your knees and say, I'm going to start all over. And it's a process, because I had to do it. It took a lot of people to start believing me that I wasn't drinking anymore, because all they heard for years is, oh yeah, I quit, because I would say that just to shut them up. So you have to build that trust. You have to build that self-esteem. I am telling you, as I sit here speaking to you, that my self-esteem has never been higher And it really should have been higher, but the alcohol and the family issues brought that down. But I have probably the highest self-esteem in myself because I know what I'm about today, and I see things clear. I don't have to rely on any drug, any vice, except for maybe some junk food. But everything is fixable. Everything absolutely is fixable. But you have to want to do it, and you have to take the good and the bad as you do it. Don't expect your self-esteem or anything else just to come back by itself. It's not going to. You have to work at it. You have to. It's almost like marketing and branding yourself out in the field and show business. You have to do it within your own heart and brand your whole new self to yourself.
Beautiful. We're going to go to our sponsor's commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how best to love yourself, and the struggles became my strength, that book, Ralph. So we'll be right back after this commercial.
Thank you.
The picturesque, and energy, the Southern Adirondacks is unlike no other. Nurturing its own peace, tranquility, and balance, flows free and free in mountainous air. That's why owning a home, land or business, the Southern Adirondacks becomes a treasure. And to guide you to your treasure, earning the top women realtor in Fulton County sales, and voted top producer and realtor of the year, Mary Ellen Charles of ADK Realty offers experience, energy, and results through her unique matchmaking approach, finding you the Adirondack property you desire and deserve. Extensive experience and knowledge of the Southern Adirondacks is exactly what buyers need to find their perfect home or vacation retreat. Properties in Fulton, Northern Herkimer, Warren, and Saratoga counties, the city of Gloversville, Johnstown, and surrounding areas in the Southern Adirondacks is her specialty. Whether you're a seller or a buyer or even a newcomer seeking land, a summer retreat, home, or business, contact Mel Charles today. ADK Realty, 2144 State Highway 10, Caroga Lake, New York. Return calls in 24 hours at 518-725-2357 or at 518-705-5616. Or email Mel at adksrealty.com. ADK Realty, your guide to the Southern Adirondacks. www.adksrealty.com. Welcome back to VOP Freedom Radio's Alternatives for a Healthier Lifestyle. And of course, we're talking to our special guest today, and we're honored with Ralf Friedrichs. And we're going to talk now about how to love yourself better, when you're recovering, whatever your addiction may be. It might be gambling, it might be alcohol, it might be drugs, it might be your behavior. You're going overboard. But no matter what it is, these two books, Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze, and Struggles Became My Strength, these are very important books where you'd be able to reflect and see yourself through the writings of Ralph. So right now, Ralph, could you kind of touch on how to best love yourself? Because that's what you have to do. It's about healing, when you're getting your shit together, and about Struggles Became My Strength. You have the floor.
Okay. The thing here is that I learned early in my recovery that it's almost impossible to love anyone if you can't love yourself. And that's super important for people to realize, because you cannot share love if you don't have love. You can say you love somebody, you love to somebody, but you need to start loving yourself. And I only found one way to start loving myself. And the only way was the first step, and that was to admit I had a problem. And once I got to that point, then I relied on my higher power, being God. And then every single day, every 24 hours that I succeeded in a day of sobriety, I looked in the mirror and I said, job well done. And to be honest with you, as I started getting a following on my YouTube channel, on Vimeo, or even Facebook, which I have, I think, 10 different pages, it was the people, their emails, their remarks, they say they're proud of you, that makes you actually say, you know what? I am a good person. I have a problem, but I'm a good person, and I can start loving myself. And once you start loving yourself and you get to that point, and you, it's almost like being stripped down to nothing when you first hit a rock bottom. And you start dressing yourself. And that's the point where you start loving yourself. And when you get to that point, then you can reach out and say to your wife, I love you, and actually mean it, not because the alcohol is talking. Or you can go to your children or to anyone else. But in order to love yourself, you have to be almost to a point, especially for if you're addicted to anything and you're going through that first phase of recovery, is to admit to the fact that you are nothing. And when I say nothing, I don't mean as a human. I mean that you cannot control what's happening to you. You know, even AA states where you should reach for your higher power. There's not one day, and I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you in a second about the title of that first book. There's not one day that I don't reach out to God for any sort of guidance and direction. And I will tell you this, ever since I started doing that, which has been a few years now, I know God has my back. And I'm not sure if you read my book, the first one, or kind of glanced at it, but there's one chapter where I talk about my faith was tested. I worked at Virginia Eye Institute, and it was tested there. I was a managing optician, and I wrote an email to my subordinates, and I wished them a Happy New Year. And I mentioned to them in that email, please walk with God and have God in your life next year. Well, on January 3rd, I came in and I got in trouble for that. And not only did I get in trouble for it, I got written up for it, and I had 2 months of bonuses taken from me for using the word God 4 times. My point here is that I didn't even tell my wife about it. I let it go for 3 weeks. But I'm telling you, as we are speaking right now, God gave me an alternative. He says it's either me or that job. Do not choose that job over me, because you know, Ralph, this is God talking in my mind. You know, Ralph, I have your back, okay? So I went in and I gave my 3-week notice. Do you remember I mentioned about the Alaska accident that I had? Would you believe the day after I left Virginia Eye Institute, the Alaska job called me and said, listen, Ralph, we know you had an accident. We don't ever want you to have to travel up here again. How about doing a job right out of your own home for us? And I've been doing that ever since. That's how God had my back. That is so deep, and this will lead right into the book, Struggles Became My Strength, because in that book, the title, Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. I took so much heat from people saying, how can you use the word God on the book? Because you're not being politically correct. Well, you know, whether I use the word God or higher power, and I was contemplating using higher power, but he's God to me. So we all get to choose how we want to word things. So jumping into struggles became my strength. In that book, and by the title you can't tell, but I talk about all my struggles, how it became to my strength. I talk about other people's struggles, other families that I've known and their strength. I talk about God in that book. Now, many people are going to say, why didn't you put the words God on the title? And I'll tell you why. It's because, you know, everybody's a Monday quarterback. It takes a lot to write books. And I don't know about you, how you take criticism, but I could be a little sensitive sometimes, but especially when it comes about God. I mean, I left a job that was paying me a huge amount of money because of the word God. And the Struggles Became My Strength is a book about showing people. It's not an autobiography. It's a book about showing people, no matter what struggles you go through in life, those struggles are put in your path for a reason. It's to make you stronger. It might not be by God. It could be just by fate. but every struggle makes you stronger. If you can overcome those struggles, you will have a stronger body, a stronger mind, and a stronger tomorrow.
Would you agree that each of us, no matter how we develop in the early stages of life, especially, just before 40, each of us are actually somewhat broken, untouched, filled with mistakes, lessons to learn, experiences to go through. Would you agree to that? So none of us are perfect, and none of us will reach perfection. Do you agree, Ralph?
I agree with that, and although I love myself, I am so far from being perfect. But here's the difference between knowing when you're not perfect while you're on drugs or alcohol and knowing when you're sober is because every time I realize I'm not perfect, I am now able to make amends, which before I wasn't able to. In other words, I go to the person maybe or whatever the problem is and I deal with it, but I also realize then, you know what, I am human. When you're on drugs and alcohol, you become almost like a superhuman. You're untouchable. That's the way you feel. I worked many years in Manhattan on 34th Street, and I'd be standing in Penn Station and drunk sometimes and contemplating, should I jump in front of the subway because my life was that miserable. It wasn't the people in my life. It was me. My life was so miserable because of all these mistakes. But now when I have problems, because I am not perfect, I can deal with them because I'm sober, I'm clear-minded, and I know for a fact that tomorrow is a whole brand new day.
Beautiful. We have about 5 minutes, and when you hear the flute playing in the background real lightly, you'll know that we're heading toward the end. But could you tell people how they can reach you, the different ways that they can reach you? They can follow you because we need followers, so they become leaders. You got to follow, to lead.
Sure.
Could you give all that information out and any other inspiration, brother?
Sure, I certainly can. And I want to take 1 second just to thank you very much for the opportunity to be on your show. I certainly appreciate it, and I would love to do it again one day.
Sure, we're honored.
Okay. Yeah. So for everyone listening, I want to just give you my website, and all you need to do is go to www.takeyourlifebacktodayShow.business.site. I know it's a lot to remember. I will post this on something on my Facebook page, all this information, for people to find it easier. And you will find all this a lot easier if you just go to Facebook and go to my first page, which is Take Your Life Back Today Show. If you just type that in the search bar, you'll be able to find this whole list. You can go to another page, Struggles Became My Strength. And I separate these pages because they're meant for a reason, because some cover certain topics. Third page is Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze. Fourth one is Help, the letter U too. And that's about helping people right away. Another page is clearviews.info. I want to tell people, your audience, real quick, Clearviews stands for Community Lessons Empower Addiction Recovery. That's why Clearviews was designed. Another one is Positivity, number 2 day, so it's Positivity Today. And then there's one page, it's called Take Your Life Back Today Show, with just all videos. So it's Take Your Life Back Today Show videos, and then Friends of Take Your Life Back Today Show, and Friends of Clearviews.info. I do have a hotline number, which I get phone calls sometimes at 2 in the morning. It's 844-405-HELP, 844-405-HELP, and that is a hotline for anyone to call me with any situation. I have resources to help you through different states and social services and stuff, or I can at least contact them to try to help you with any situation you might have. My email address is takeyourlifebacktodayShow@gmail.com. As you know, my books are Bottoms Up, Surrendering to God, Not to Booze, Struggles Became My Strength. Instagram is my first name, Ralf, R-A-L-F, _Friedrichs, F-R-I-E-D-R-I-C-H-S. And then Twitter is Friedrichs Ralf. So it's, instead of Ralf Friedrichs, it's just Friedrichs Ralf. And of course, the big one is the YouTube channel. You can just go to the search bar to go to my channel. Take Your Life Back Today Show. On my channel, you'll find about 2,700 videos at this point from all the years that I've been doing it now. I just want to remind every single person that in life, we go through life always constantly looking at the past. But I want you to picture this just for a minute. We have a car that has a huge windshield, and then we have a rear view mirror that's very small. Picture you're driving a car in your life. You want to look through the life windshield of your car that you're driving. In other words, you want to look through the windshield of your life. It's big. You want to see what's coming towards you. Try not to concentrate on that little rear view mirror in your life and see all the things that happened to you in the past. Because you know what? Honestly, the best thing is to learn from that, but you cannot change it. Look through that windshield in life. Stop glancing at the rear view mirror, and you will find success. You will find happiness, and you will find that you can start loving yourself. You can make a difference in other people's life. And I want to thank everybody for listening, and I thank you very much, Henry, for having me.
You know that we're very blessed to have you on today, brother, and God bless you, Ralph.
Thank you, and you also. Take good care of yourself.
You got it. Peace, love, revolution.
Okay.
I'll have you back on in another few weeks, okay?
I certainly would be honored to do so. Thank you very much, and we'll keep in touch.
You got it, brother. Peace.